Hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Anna Hendricks here, a spiritual guide, Akashic Soul Channel, and the host of the Soul Driven podcast, which is a weekly podcast where it's like twice a week now. I don't even know what that word would be. So not bi-weekly, double weekly. I don't know. Anyway, where we explore the intersection of living a soulful and spiritual life. Happy week. What is today? Today is Thursday. And I am super excited to share very cool news with you. So that news being that the monthly Akashic Toolkits have finally launched. I need what is it? Sound effects. Like a whole cheering section. It needs to like slide that and be like, yeah. I'm not that cool yet, but we'll see what happens. Maybe not. We'll see. Either way, I wanted to jump onto YouTube and talk about them, introduce them, because they're going to be around each and every month. So the first one was launched yesterday. It is the July Akashic Toolkit. So a little bit of background on these babies. First of all, back in 2020, when I was first guided to start doing monthly Akashic forecasts for my podcast, it was kind of a crazy thing. When it first channeled through, I was like, no way. And then the other part of me was like, yes, let's do it. And it was definitely a leap of faith for me to step out in that way. I was still the CEO of a marketing agency. I've always been a very spiritual person, but that side of me was under wraps. And I was still, I would say, in the earlier stages of my metaphysical awakening, which really started taking place at the beginning of 2019. So I was still, kind of under wraps, trying to figure out what was happening. My guides had started talking to me a little bit about becoming a spiritual guide, but I was just like, nah, I'm good. I made good money with my agency and I knew that world. I had been in that world for over a decade. It was easy to talk about at dinner parties, whole 9 yards. But that's another story for another day. Regardless, I started sharing and channeling through these monthly Akashic forecasts every month on my podcast. And every month it was just so cool to not only be a part of that process, but then see how aligned it was. Because, while I had been doing reading since the beginning of 2020, it wasn't like, oh, hey, let me do a forecast type reading. So again, I was really taking a step out to just follow that wild guidance that I was given. But I would say about, 6 months in the middle of last year, I started realizing it was like, these forecast episodes are channeled through at the beginning of the month. But one of the things that had always been impressed upon me was that the best way to utilize them was to revisit them at least once a week throughout the month, to just kind of recenter with the monthly theme, to get reacclimated to everything that they would share. And because the Akashic Records, time doesn't exist and things kind of shift and change every time you come back to it. Even if you revisited a forecast like 10 years from now, there would be something there for you that would relate to your very current present time. So revisiting it throughout the month is kind of like getting like a new reading every time that you listen to it. Very powerful. And the thing is that I would find with myself, find with my listeners in conversation, it's like, you hear it, we absorb the information like we do anything else in life. And then you go about life, right? You just keep moving, keep going, keep trucking, and you really forget. And so every month when I would come back to do the next reading and create the episode, I would be revisiting the previous reading. And it would just be like, oh my gosh, why wasn't I listening to this throughout the month? Because it would have been so helpful for me. And so I started thinking about like, well, what can I create to kind of keep us a bit more accountable, to add more support, right? And I wasn't really sure. And I was also really busy. And so that was just something I kind of let go. And then I started having these ideas and things kind of started popping up in my mind. But again, I was just too busy. And so really it came in very, very clearly in regards to what I was going to include in this toolkit just, just a few short weeks ago. So some of you may know, if you have been watching the videos on my channel, about the Confidence series, which is a channeled Akashic healing course, 6-week course that I launched. Oh gosh, I launched it back in May, but we started in June 13th. And it has just been, oh my goodness, such an incredible journey to be upon, to be involved in. And I know I'm guiding it, but it's also a channeled course. So it's like every week, the information comes to me, is channeled through, and then it's created. And in the midst of this, I was led from the very beginning to start creating Akashic activations, which I had never heard of an Akashic activation before, and why can't we create new things, right? So activations are similar to meditations. You usually go on some kind of a journey, something happens, but in activations, the intention is very different. And so powerful shifts can take place in the midst of an activation. They typically have some sort of purpose behind them. And in addition to whatever force it is that you are utilizing with that activation, I mean, like, huge things can happen. And I started seeing this within with the students who are in my confidence series. And the responses that they shared with me, the things that they shared with each other in our private group, I mean, just blew me away. And so I realized that this would be a component in the midst in these toolkits. And then I started thinking about, and it really came to me, it was like workbooks would be the next best thing to really throw in there. A workbook that had resources and tools that would help to anchor in the monthly theme, whatever it is, right? In addition to questions for journaling, so that we can really spend some time connecting with ourselves, connecting with how this theme is supposed to come alive for us. What is it supposed to look like? Maybe what are some roadblocks to that? You know what I mean? And so I lifted this up, and it was very much in full alignment. And so the Akashic monthly Akashic toolkits will now be available every month within 7 days of the monthly forecast going live. So I'm really excited about these. What you get in a toolkit is the monthly reading to revisit once per week, recommended and not required. Gorgeous workbook with the transcript from the reading from the monthly forecast, so you can also read it. In addition to any tools and resources that I am guided to include in this, and channeled questions that are aligned with the monthly theme for journaling purposes, and then a beautiful Akashic activation with music. It's fancy. What can I say? Anyway, these are $9 a pop, super affordable, and just a great way to support yourself throughout the month ahead. So that's pretty much it. I hope that you check out one of these monthly Akashic toolkits. And if you do, I definitely want to hear what your experience is, especially with the activation. Any sort of feedback that you have, I'm always open and available. These are completely channeled items, so I'm sure that this toolkit is going to grow and shift and change with time. You know, there's just going to be different things, different months. I don't know what to tell you, but check them out, and hope you grab one. Either way, wishing you a wonderful week, and thank you so much for joining me once again. Have Have a good one. Much love.